Does press coverage have an influence on the polls? Hi, thanks for watching. Today is Wednesday, Big Idea Wednesday, where I like to just take an idea, share it with you, and get your feedback. And the idea today is on coverage by the media and its influence on the polls. Earlier today, Nate Silver of 538 put out a list of the coverage that the Democratic candidates have received so far. This first one is from newspapers, and to top the list, we have Elizabeth Warren. She's got the most coverage by newspapers, followed by Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Beto, and it goes on and on. At the bottom of the list, we have Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard, which is too bad because, in my opinion, Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard are the most interesting candidates that are running for the Democratic nomination, but they've received the least amount of coverage in the newspapers. Now let's look at the cable coverage. Cable TV has given the most airtime to Beto, followed by Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. Cory Booker is at number 5. Cory Booker. This guy is adult, right? He is so boring. He has no charisma. He can't get 100 people to his rally and his hometown, but somehow he's 5th in cable news coverage. It's really shocking how much press they give to this guy who has 0% chance of going anywhere with this nomination. I mean, 0% chance. I will take all bets at any odds. And he's going nowhere. But yet here he is, 5th in cable coverage. And we go down to the bottom of the list, and who do we have again? It's Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang, the least covered in cable news coverage of the candidates. And that's really too bad, but is it shocking at all? Is that shocking that they're not covered? Well, what we learned through WikiLeaks is we learned that the DNC pretty much just tells the media who to cover, right? Hillary Clinton's campaign told the media, we want to run against Trump. Cover the hell out of Trump. And the media did, right? Trump got way more coverage than any other candidate. He happened to have been the most interesting, exciting candidate, but he got far more coverage than he probably deserved based on his popularity at the time. Other candidates that were polling at similar numbers did not get nearly the coverage that Trump got. And look what happened, right? He's now the president. When you cover someone, they become more popular, they raise up in the polls. And that's what happened with Trump. They certainly do not seem to want to cover Tulsi Gabbard or Andrew Yang at all, and they don't. They're not covering those candidates. But like this, Cory Booker, number 5, they're covering him. Try to find a picture of Cory Booker with 100 people at a rally. You can't do it. I mean, he's been at rallies with more than 100 people, but I mean, one of his rallies. You know, you can Google image Cory Booker rally and look at the tiny, tiny, tiny crowds that he gets. He has released no information on his donations, about how many how many donors he has, how much he's raised. He's released none of this information because nobody cares about him, but yet the cable news is really pushing him. Just unbelievable. But how does the cable news pushing this really boring guy, how does that have an effect on the polls? Well, according to the latest polling, Bernie Sanders is at number 1 because you would expect that. He would be the front runner, followed by Kamala Harris, who's received all kinds of press. It doesn't shock me that Kamala Harris is doing so well. Essentially, you know, she was with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's team pretty much joined Kamala Harris's team. It's Hillary 2.0. So we would expect that she's doing really well. She would be a terrible candidate. It would be Walter Mondale 2.0, but But we would expect that she would be doing pretty well. Beto, number 3. Elizabeth Warren, 4. Cory Booker is polling at number 5. But this guy can't even get 100 people to turn out to his rally in his hometown when he's announcing that he's running for president. Nobody cares about this guy, yet he's still polling that high. And that's the thing, is when you are seen on TV over and over and over again, you're going to poll higher. That's just how it works. I know analogies are bad, but if you were polled on what's your favorite cola, and they didn't give you a list, they just said, what's your favorite cola? And you think, oh, Coke, Pepsi, Pepsi, I like Pepsi. And then you walk away from it and you're like, you know what, I really like RC better, but I just didn't think about it because I see Coca-Cola everywhere, it's on TV, I see the billboards, I see Pepsi everywhere in all the restaurants. They were on the top of my mind, and so therefore that's who you chose in the poll. Now, I know analogies stink. This analogy was terrible, but I hope you understand my point, is the more someone's promoted in the media, the better they're going to do in the polls. That's just how it is. And it doesn't shock me when you look at the polling rank that Tulsi Gabbard is in last place, tied for last in the polls, and she's had the least amount of coverage in the media. In fact, I would say probably at least half the media coverage that she's had has been negative propaganda against her. But the thing is actual popularity has nothing to do with the media coverage. The media will say things like, oh, we cover, what's going on. We cover who's popular. But that's not true. That's not true. And let me give you a personal story for that. I live here in Portland. For the last campaign, I went to a Bernie Sanders rally to check it out and to hear what he had to say. He was at the Rose Garden, or the Moda Center, where the Trailblazers play, in August of 2015. And so this is well a year before the election. And they said that there was about 20,000 people there. I'm not sure if there were that many, but there were a lot, okay? And I was thinking that, oh, this is going to be a national story, that he got such a big crowd. This is incredible. But I checked out the national news. They didn't cover it. It was in the local paper. It was in the local news, but it didn't make any of the national news at all. And you would think if they were covering what people thought was popular, they would have covered, this huge rally that he had. Now, I'm not talking about the one in 2016 where the little bird showed up. Not that one. August 2015. You can search for it yourself. Google it. August 2015, Portland, Oregon, Bernie Sanders rally. You can see the national media did not cover it at all. And that's the thing, is the media has such a huge influence on the polls and who they decide to cover. And who they are covering this year, right? Cable news, they're covering Beto. They're covering Kamala. They're covering Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker. They're not covering Tulsi Gabbard. They're not covering Andrew Yang. Two of, in my opinion, the most interesting candidates that we have running. We have a lot of different candidates. Many of them just stink, right? But they're all getting more coverage than Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang, which is too bad. But does it surprise anyone that the media is not covering them? Because the media takes their orders from the DNC. And of all these candidates, only one of them has called out the DNC, told them that they need to be transparent and they need to change their crooked ways.
Earlier today, we heard from Donna Brazil that what many people had suspected for a long time has turned out to be true. The DNC secretly chose their nominee over a year before the primary elections even occurred. This shines a light on how deeply broken our campaign finance laws are and how they've weakened individual candidates while strengthening and empowering political parties and special interests. These laws essentially allowed the Clinton campaign to bypass individual campaign contribution limits by funneling millions of dollars through the DNC and state parties, taking control of the DNC in the process.
So the candidate who's called out the DNC for being crooked is the candidate that's had the least media coverage. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence, right? That's the thing. And here's what I want to know. Do you think that media coverage has an influence on the polls? Or is the media just covering what the people want to know about? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Peace. Help me reach my goal of 1 million. Make that 4,000 subscribers by hitting the like button and subscribing.